Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Katherine.
My name's Katherine, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi. I want to thank Dawn for asking me to speak tonight, and Tony for your share earlier. Let's see. I'm an alcoholic. I did say that, right? Yeah. Let's see. Oh, let me start with today, because that's always a good place to start. I'm sober today. That's really good. But I have three things that I think are really important in this program. And this is a little too high. Let's see, I have a sobriety date, and that is November 25th of 1991. I have a big book, I actually read it, and I have a sponsor. And I have those three things only because you people told me to get that when I got sober in San Jose, California, in a group called Saturday Night Live. They saved my life. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a bit. But so today, I was at a noon meeting because I'm a GSR, and I'm into service, and it's not my fault. You know, I never want to get out of me, and somehow I'm showing up. Casey and I were just talking. You know, it's been 9 months, and I'm just starting to understand what's going on. But today, I have a temp job until I get discovered, and it's in Hollywood. And so I had it's casual day on Friday, so I was wearing jeans, and I want to look nice, you know, when I speak. So I put this outfit in the car to change into at work, and I went and got it out, and it was like all wrinkled. And see, I'm about looking good at all costs. I'm about looking good at all times, and this has led me even into sobriety with almost 9 years. Okay, and this is just who I am, so I've got to share it. And then see, God always meets my needs, because when I got here and sat down, I saw this big old podium in front of me, and it doesn't really matter that my pants are wrinkled. And you know what? I gotta tell you, that is the way my life in sobriety has worked. I swear to God, everything that I think is such a big problem or such a big deal, you know, just really, it isn't. Or either God, once I accept what's going on in my life, once I accept the situation as it is, my life changes. Something in my mind clicks over, and I have serenity. Oh my God, this is a girl that has not had serenity for a lot of years. I come from a Portuguese-Irish family. I was born in Louisiana, raised basically in Santa Clara, and I loved it there. But I have the kind of family that had port wine at Easter and all the holidays, so I started drinking very early. But consciously, I drank when I was 13. I had 2 dark Lowenbrows, and I fell off a fence, and I loved it. And I think I chased that for 13 more years. That feeling, you know, just being out of your body. And I come from a really insane household. There's manic depression, alcoholism, and sexual abuse. And other than those 3 things, our family was quite functional. You know, I grew up in the kind of household where we didn't talk about anything, and it always looked good to the neighbors. We went to Catholic church, you know, everything always looked good. Well, it's a wonder. I always want to look good. No matter what's going on the inside, I'm going to always look good. And it is a big facade, and it's something that got broken down once I got to AA. The other thing that I had in my mind was that only alcoholics could only be men. I don't know why, guys, I'm sorry. I just thought that we couldn't get there. And in the big book, it dispels that by saying that we sometimes as women get here earlier, or we find out that we have the disease earlier in our lives because, I don't know why, but it says something about this in the big book. I love the big book only because I didn't trust people when I got sober. So whenever I was having a problem, I would go read the big book. the thing in my household that really drove me to drink was I liked it. All I know is I was stealing my dad's Lady Lee vodka. That was from Lucky's. You know, we had only highest quality in our household. And I would stash the bottles on the side of the house and steal the little '69 Toyota Corolla that my parents later sold me when I was like 13 and a half. So I was doing damage at a very early age and felt like I had every right to. Because of the abuse that was going on inside the house and a mother who did not believe me when I did approach her at 14 years old, it just sort of allowed me the decision to just wreak havoc on everyone's life. And I'm telling you this because this is my experience. If it offends anyone, I apologize, but I can't change my story. And it might change like next week if you hear me share, but that's how this program works also. When I was 17 and a half, I crawled out a window to live with my best friend and her mom in Campbell, California. And my father was accused of molesting 3 high school girls. He was a driver trainer at the time. And I really didn't know what was going on because I was using. I was drinking, and I was going to quit my senior year and take a GED, and then I started working at a health club and teaching aerobics. I was teaching 3 classes a day and going out into the bars till about 2 or 3 at night, using a little cocaine, and then opening up the health club at 8 a.m. teaching 3 more classes. I mean, I know I was sweating booze. I don't know how people stood taking my class, but I was really healthy. I was a really healthy drunk. I mean, you know, I looked good. See? You know, the big thing. Always got to look good, no matter what's going on. So I'm living in Campbell. I get whatever's going on with my family's going on, and I'm just ripping and running. I am a 17-and-a-half-year-old with a 24-year-old woman's ID that I stole from a beach. I found it on a beach and I kept it. I didn't want to send it to her. And she was blonde and I was blonde that week, so, you know, I normally have brown hair. And it's shorter than this, but, you know, the funny thing is that during all this running and ripping, I didn't know, you know, at 18 years old, that it was not normal to. I did end up taking civil and criminal justice at night to graduate with my senior class. But all the meanwhile, still going to all the parties on the weekends, I was the one that they would find, you know, burping and throwing up and farting all at the same time on the bathroom floor at a party. This was my high school years. So I surrounded myself with people that partied worse than I did. So I don't know what happened, but when I was 18, I just decided to change my life. And I got a corporate job. I started working for Apple Computer in Campbell. And I was, you know, catapulted into a fine job as a buyer, which meant they wined and dined me, and I got paid for it. And I loved it. And I met a man, and, you know, he sold cocaine, so I married him. And he didn't really sell it. We just had a lot of it around. And, you know, but the thing is, I would always do things that I didn't want to do. I didn't know who I was, and I don't like 3 things on men, and that's a beard, long hair, and an earring. Now, if you have these, it doesn't mean I don't like you as a person, okay? So please don't be offended. But my personal taste is I don't like men with long hair, beard, or an earring. Well, this guy had all 3, and I married him anyway. And so what it tells you is that, you know, complete abandon with all my life. Everything in my life was with complete abandon. I just didn't care, but I didn't know that I didn't care. And, you know, during our marriage, he had collected 3 DUIs. And I'm so grateful for my marriage to that man. His name is Ray, and you know, we don't have any contact because we didn't have any kids or no reason. We were married 10 days shy of 2 years, and I was with him for a total of 5 years of my life. But God always puts people where they need to be when they need to be there. And when I was 9 months sober, and he was on my amends list, I was singing at a country bar in San Jose to try to be discovered there, and he walked in the door, you know, and so he now knows I'm in the program and sober. So if you think, oh, I got to search out this person and find him, you know, God will put him right in your path. So anyway, we were married, and things were okay for a while, but then when he collected these DUIs, I kept saying, man, this guy's an alcoholic. You know, so I never want to knock where I get the message, because I got carried the message of AA from a woman that's husband had 16 months in this program. But so anyway, Ray and I were happily married, or so I thought, and once he collected these DUIs and I was pointing the finger, I started going to every 12-step group out there, except AA. And I think I missed Al-Anon too, because that would have meant like close to alcoholic. They said that word when you were in the room, I think. So I didn't, ever approach that. And then I started therapy, and up near Stanford. And I don't know, something happened where I reached a bottom in May of 1991. And I met this woman in another 12-step group, Sharon, I'll never forget. And she said, Kath, see, I got this big plan. I was going to quit my buyer job. Since I was 3, I've wanted to be a singer. I have known I'm supposed to be a singer. Singer, actress, I'm an entertainer. That's to my toes. But so when I, was in this therapy and getting divorced, I thought, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to quit my job at Apple, making all that money, and I'm going to go get discovered at McNeil's, the corner bar down the street, while I'm waitressing. I thought it was a good plan. And so I did, and basically I didn't get discovered yet. So anyway, I'm working in this bar and I'm serving drinks, and I meet this woman at a 12-step group, and she says, Kath, I know you haven't had a drink for 16 months, or three months, but I want you to follow me to my house and get this big book and a schedule. My husband has 16 months in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thought, she's a bitch. I mean, that's all I could think of. But somehow my car followed her to her house, and she gave me the big book, and she gave me the spring schedule, and I got home and I cut her out of my life. I didn't go to those other meetings anymore, I didn't see her anymore, and I put the book on a shelf. Well, in November of 1991, November 17th, a friend of mine from 4th grade was killed in a car accident coming home from Chico State. And we all went to the bar where I worked after the funeral because I could buy everybody a drink. And us alcoholics, we like to be the big one buying everybody everything. And so 15 of us went, and it was my moment of clarity. That woman had given me this book, but I didn't open it. But I said, I'm going to just have one drink. It'll take away the pain of Paul being gone. And that night I went home with the water polo star from the high school team that never noticed me when I was in high school, but now he wanted to sleep with me, and I went home with him, and I couldn't have sex with him, and drove home. I had 5 drinks that night. And a week later I had 2 tall beers at a Tom Petty concert. That was November 24th of 91. And the next day I ended up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, between a Harley Davidson tattooed guy and some woman that looked about 70, and I stood up in the back of this room saying, my name's Katherine and I'm an alcoholic. And I thought, I have gone to hell and died. I mean, I didn't understand. I didn't understand. But this is the powerful way that God has worked in my life, because see, I had a God. I thought I had a God, but the books talk about this. I didn't surrender to the will of this God that was in my life. I just had this Catholic God that I had kind of shunned, because why would a God like that let a kid be abused, have an insane household to grow up in like I had, all these reasons that I had. Well, basically when I got sober, 30 days sober, I sang at a New Year's Eve function, and I sang in the back of there was about 400 people at this New Year's Eve thing, and I said, this is what I was before I got to you, and I said, my name's Katherine and I'm an alcoholic, and this is what I was before I got to AA, and I said, crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely, and the whole room shook. And they could relate to that. And that night I ended up with a newcomer throwing up in a foam cup that I was holding in the back of a Mercedes-Benz. That's been the glamour of Alcoholics Anonymous to me. I mean, somehow, I was carrying the message and I didn't even know it. And that was at 30 days sober. I didn't want to be with this woman throwing up in this, foam cup that I was holding, but somehow that was the journey. So, I got a sponsor at 8 days sober, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just asked someone to show me what was going on here, and I had no idea. I mean, I was holding on by my seat. Although I hadn't drank in a few months, you know, all this stuff on the inside was just going crazy. I had pretty much been estranged from my family because I confronted everybody before I got sober about the abuse, and they all decided that I was a liar. And you know, I've really come to some peace around that in the program, and you people have taught me how to live with that. You know, so I want to share with anyone that if they've made amends and they don't have their whole family back and everything's all perfect, that's okay, because it doesn't always happen that way. So let's see. So, God, it seems like, you know, sometimes I have so much to say, and other times I have nothing to say. And tonight seems like one of those nights. I don't know. So at a year sober, I've worked my steps, and by 90 days, they're calling me the 90-day wonder, which I loved. I love that because, you know, I want attention, and I want to be the president of AA, and I didn't know that there was none. There was never that to achieve to. So I was hanging out, going to the movies with a lot of women in the program, and doing the steps, and at a year sober, there was 34 people at a Mexican restaurant to celebrate my 1 year. And there was a guy I had dated like 5 times, but I wasn't interested in him. And he was picking up on a newcomer that I was helping to try to get sober, and she couldn't get this program. And, you know, they wheeled out this cake with one candle, and, you know, I said the prayer that we all say in this program once you're here, is that, you know, and I got jealous. I was upset that this guy that I wasn't really interested in was picking up on this newcomer. That's the insanity of my mind. But I said the prayer, and I said, you know, God, I don't want any man, woman, child, anything to get between me and my sobriety. And that was at a year sober. And, you know, something happened that night. And all of a sudden I started getting in service. And the big thing that started to happen was I started speaking at high schools, especially the one that I almost didn't graduate from, Santa Clara. You know, I would go regularly on behalf of AA and speak to students. I'd go to the college campuses, and now, since I've been in LA, I do that here. And it's so rewarding for me, because that was the age that I was when I was really doing some drinking and damage. So anyway, you know, traveling along this path, you know, and I'm pretty young, and of course I want a man and all those things, you know, that we want when we get here. Well, if you're a guy and, you know, want a woman, but the thing about this program is that it never comes in my time. Whatever it is I'm wanting, whatever it is, it doesn't come in my time. And I just have to be willing to accept what is, Tony said it earlier, you know, where his feet are. You know, I sometimes have such a hard time with that. So what ended up happening was, because you people have taught me how to show up and suit up, and even when I didn't want to, and I got active in service in AA, I started a contract buying job at some of these companies, some really big companies in Silicon Valley. And I was getting paid really well. I could go to a lot of meetings. And then what happened is I started performing at restaurants like near Palo Alto and Stanford, and on the weekends. And so it was working out really well. And then I got fired from my first job in sobriety. And when that happened, I didn't want to tell anyone, so I showed up at noon meetings in business attire for a whole week, because I didn't want to tell anyone that I had been fired. And I almost drank over it. Because, see, I always want to look good. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to tell you that I'm hurting. And I always want to look good. And that almost killed me.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one.
And that's my form of this disease, is that I always want to look good and I never want to ask for help. And, you know, that first step, you know, the first step is just so incredible, because, you know, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. I still, into this program almost 4 years, didn't really have a sense of that. But so when I lost that job and I didn't drink and I showed up at meetings was a new miracle for me. And then one of my friends in a theater that I had worked in, my second sponsor owns a vaudeville theater in San Jose, and so I started working there, and they have the push-up bra and the big old wig and saloon gal dress, and I was serving beer, and she taught me how to be around this, because I'm in a business now that it's around me all the time, and I have to be willing to go anywhere and be okay with this. And so at 9 months sober, my friend from the theater died of stomach cancer, and I didn't drink, and because you people taught me how to show up and be of service. And so then I started sponsoring a couple women, and I don't know. This program happens when you're not looking. This way of life is just a way of life now for me, and I don't want to take it for granted, but it's hard to put into words all the experiences that happen. But in those first 4 years, I have to say I sort of built a foundation, and it's not my fault. It's because other people ahead of me showed me to just show up, sad, mad, or glad. Show up at a meeting, and I would. And I'm not a daily drinker, so see, I always wanted to be unique. I'm a periodic. I can go a couple months, I can go a month or two, and then I need to tie one on for a couple days, a big one, but I need to tie one on. And that makes me as much as an alcoholic as someone that drinks every day. See, what Alcoholics Anonymous taught me was that I have this physical allergy to the alcohol that I wanted to put in my body. And that's the part that I would always miss. And so, I was going along, life was okay, and I was doing meetings and sponsoring women, and then I got pregnant, and the guy and I, we weren't suitably matched. I mean, we weren't compatible. I mean, he wanted to travel to Honduras and be a nurse, and I wanted to be an entertainer in Los Angeles, and the two were not compatible. And so a week after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, and I was just devastated. I was 4.5 years sober, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had never been pregnant when I was with my husband. I know I want kids someday, but I didn't know what I was going to do, and I just kept going to meetings, and I chose not to have the baby, and it's the best thing I could have done. I mean, and I know for some people that have an opinion about that, it's their opinion, but I know that I did for me what I was supposed to do. And 3 weeks later, I was cast in the ABC Movie of the Week, and my career has catapulted since then. Everyone in the program back there said, you got to move to LA, and I was so scared. When you get sober somewhere, and this is just my experience, I didn't want to move from that little cocoon. I wanted to just stay in Santa Clara, but I did 2 movies in 2 years. It's like not a big town more is happening, but I needed to move out of my shell. And I didn't want to. I kept balking, and I didn't trust this process. And, I didn't think I could have my dreams come true. I really didn't. After so many years of living in that household that said, you can't never be a singer, you can never do that, you have to know the right people, you hear that for enough years. I don't care if you're alcoholic or not, you just never believe in yourself. What Alcoholics Anonymous has done is, on the inside out, done a Roto-Rooter job on me to believe that I can have whatever it is I want on the inside if I'm willing to work for it. The one thing I know is that my sobriety always has to come first. Because if it doesn't, and there are times where I put other things in front of it, it gets removed right away for me to know that, guess what? You've made sobriety not your priority anymore. So what happened was, as part of my amends, my mother her and her husband lived in Arizona and near Prescott. And so as part of my amends, what I did, even with this woman I hated because she didn't protect me from my father, I went and stayed and took care of their 2.5 acres and stayed at their house while they went to Canada for 3 months. And it was the best thing I could have done. And this is all part of the program, because people said, move, go do what is in front of you. So I stayed on her property, I took care of the property. I was in a play up there, and And then when they got back, I thought, well, you know, I'm 6 years sober now. Maybe my mom is going to want a relationship with me, and maybe I can live with her for another 2 months when she gets back from her trip, and then I'll move to LA. And I auditioned for like Star Trek or something in November or October, and I didn't get it out here in LA. Went back to Arizona, and 3 days after my parents were back, my mom says, you know, we'd really like you to move now. And I was devastated. I mean, I was 6 years sober. I had just taken care of her house for 3 months. And this woman didn't want to have a relationship with me. And, you know, I can't believe I'm crying about it because I feel like I should be so over this. But there's a line in the 12 by 12 that talks about having our defects of character removed by root and branch. And, you know, this stuff runs deep. And so they gave me $1,000 and I moved out to Los Angeles. And that was 3 years ago in November. It'll be 3 years. And
Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom?
I moved to Westchester, and, you know, I started to try to get connected to the LA AA, and it's been hard, but it's been good. You know, coming up on 3 years, I feel like I have some friendships now. I'm in service. The thing with Mom is, you know, her and her husband sold their house in Arizona, and they now live in a motorhome. And they travel. They don't have to be anywhere at any time. And I've just requested that I wish she would be at my birthday, which is November 25th, to give me a cake someday. And she still hasn't, you know. So you can want what you want all you want, but it doesn't mean that God's going to give it to you. And I got to be okay with that. And that's what my current sponsor is teaching me. And I happened to meet a man when I came out here for that audition to Star Trek. And so we were kind of together for about a year, and he was in the PG group. And, you know, I met a lot of people, and I have panic attacks too. Thank you for saying that. I thought I was the only one, you know. When I hear people have them, I'm like, oh God, so grateful. Because I'm not, you know, they're really scary. They're like having a heart attack is what happens to me. And I don't like people. I know I'm an entertainer, but I don't like people. If I'm on stage, I'm okay. But in a crowd, I freak out. I can't stand sitting really close to people. I mean, I know I'm really bad when I move my chair over, you know, and they're looking at me like, she's a bitch. But I can't, I need my space. It's really a weird thing. But anyway, I used to have really bad panic attacks, and those have gone away since I've been sober, you know, and the last one I had was about 3 years ago. But I don't know what made me think of that. So I moved out here, and I got involved in the PG group, and I got involved in AA, wherever I was, because I've been taught to get involved. So, but, you know, it wasn't the group for me, so I moved on, wherever I've moved on. But, because I've always been raised on Alcoholics Anonymous, wherever I go. If I travel, if I go to Boston or whatever, and I go to an AA meeting. I look up AA, and I call, and I find out if I can get there. Because, I don't know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I moved out here, and after this guy and I broke up, and I was 7 years sober, and I felt like I had no life. I had put everything into this man. He was in the movie industry. He built sets, and, you know, I was just on his shirt tail. And one more time, I put something ahead of God and this program. And I was still going to meetings, but it wasn't like I wasn't living my life. So I showed up at the Marina Center, and pardon me, I gotta get a Kleenex. Sorry. Snot nose here. Thanks. I showed up at the Marina Center, and the woman who's now my sponsor, Beverly, who I love totally. I mean, this woman has saved my life. Was sharing on financial amends. Now, I had a broken heart. I didn't have anything in my mind about finance going on. But when I walked into that room on January 4th of '98, that woman was speaking to me. And somehow I went up to her and I said, you know, I'm new to the area. Can you sponsor me? And she's been my sponsor ever since. And it's been incredible because I've learned how to to have a sense of what I want, what I don't want, and that's a new thing. To be who I am, and if you don't like it, there's nothing I can do about it. What you think of me is none of my business. And that's a new thing for me. Because as I started out with, what I look like and what was going on was the most important thing, always. To uphold some view that I think you should have of me. And you know what? That's gone away. That's been melted away by doing the 12 steps. I currently sponsor a couple women. Well, one still currently because she calls me. The other, didn't like the way that the steps are required to do, which is in order. And so I don't know where she is. I think she's still sober. I see her at meetings. I don't know. It's not for them. It's for me. I always stay sober one more day when I'm in service. And so as far as living the dreams, it's funny because when you least expect it. And so 2 years ago, I started working at Westchester Golf Course because I've always wanted to learn golf, and I love the game now. I'm addicted. But I'm not very good, but it doesn't matter. See, this is the same with AA. You don't have to be good. You just have to show up. And it's such a good thing. So I started working there, and then I was cast in a Warren Beatty movie and had to quit my job there. So, and that was good. But I showed up for 6 months at Westchester Golf Course because you people taught me how to just show up. And then I got to join the union that we do and all that. But I haven't been doing any music, and I've just been going to meetings, sponsoring this one gal, and so my life kind of started to get flat a little bit, and I started to not get grateful for a daily breathing in and out and being sober, and I forgot from where I came, and I started going to Hermosa Beach meetings on 22nd Street on Saturdays, and that sort of rejuvenated me because I love the sand and I love the water and just being there. And I started reworking the steps, not another 4-step, but I started doing inventory on relationships. And I'm currently in that, which is why I think the mom thing has come up for me, because this woman doesn't want to acknowledge that I'm sober almost 9 years in this program. And there's nothing I can do about that. I've made my amends to my 2 brothers, and they choose to not have me in their life. I've paid back the money that I owed my older brother, and my younger brother just chooses not to have any contact with me. They're still in Santa Clara, and they're both very successful. And it's very hard. It's very hard to be the odd man out and to be sober and living this life and not have the family unit. So I'm really a loner. I still am a loner. I have a few select friends, and I don't trust. I still don't trust. And, that's okay. It's just where I am right now. So recently what's happened is the beginning of this year, I decided that life's too short to not do what you really want to do when you grow up. And I started pursuing the music in a way that, with complete abandon. And, I have a big show coming up in July, the end of July, and things are happening, and it's not my fault. One more time, I got to show. People in the program showed up and said, oh, well, I can do mailing labels for you, and I can do this, and people are coming out of the woodwork. It is mind-boggling, and it is not my fault. But my dream is starting to happen. It's starting to unfold, and the thing I know is that I was at a meeting this morning at noon, because that's where I was supposed to be. I'm a GSR, and I made my little announcement. And on some days, all it is that I stay sober. And on most days that's enough. And then the benefit of that is sometimes I get to carry the message and I don't even know that I'm carrying it. And people have later told me, oh, well, you carried the message, or I'm sober now because of this. And there's a gentleman, a friend of mine, that has moved from Santa Clara out here, and he used to see me. I dated his roommate, and he's now in the program. And I've worked with women and their daughters that were my age when they were drinking and using. And I made 12-step calls at midnight back in San Jose. I don't do too much of that out here in LA. I speak mostly at the campuses, which is you know, still you could be shot at, which is kind of scary. But there's a line in the big book that says we can go to the most sordid spot on earth. And you know what? I've always been willing. There's something God has put in me, a willingness to always want to be sober. And I don't know, you know, I don't know where that comes from, but I know that it's there. And so whenever I'm asked to speak or be part of Alcoholics Anonymous, I really try to do it, because it's the one thing I've done for 8.5 years that, other than breathing in and out, I've never been able to do. I've never been able to do anything. And you know, I don't know if you want to call it proud, but it's the one thing that I can look at in my life and say, you know what, this is the one thing I've been consistent in. And it's mind-boggling to me, because everything else I'd start with complete abandon and then forget in about a minute. And, you know, so, you know, this program has given me more than I could ever say in 40 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And I'm just grateful for the people that go ahead of me and that teach me how to do it, and the people behind me, and that show me that this works. Karen with her 1 year. I mean, I used to see you coming in the rooms. It's just mind-boggling, you know, how it works. How it works. So I will leave you with this. This is the Serenity Prayer that I used to sing in my car when I first got sober, because my head was so full of everything else that it would shut out that. God grant me serenity to accept what I can't change. God grant me the courage to change the things I can. Allow me the wisdom to know what's right from wrong. May I do thy will instead of mine be done. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.